Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Today is Warcraft Monday, and I'm going to be reacting to the Legacy of the Rogue by Preach Gaming. If you want to check out my previous reactions to other World of Warcraft Monday, videos, remember the playlist card will be at the top. Just click on it and you'll be able to access them. And if you want to check out Preach Gaming's YouTube channel as well as the original video for the Legacy of the Rogue, remember that the links are in the description below. Alright, let's start. 3, 2, 1, go.
You know, it's weird. WoW's been out for such a long time now that the classes themselves have a history. They have developed and changed in such ways that they barely resemble what they originally started with. I wonder how people feel.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They all have a history. All of these classes have a history as they've been going through all the installments of World of Warcraft. He's right. And for some of them it's good, some of them it's bad, but all in all it's good, right? Am I right? I don't know.
They were all the characters in vanilla, and now they're playing the same class, but is it the same as what it was? Is it what they signed up for? How has it actually changed over time? Perhaps you're new to the game and you've no idea what they were like before. I've already talked about how rogues used to use shields, or bucklers as we were called then originally, and now we consider them to just be a straight up DPS class. The rogue itself is awesome. They're one of the coolest looking characters in the game. They've had access to more legendary weapons than anybody, I think. And
that's cool, having access to more legendary weapons than any other class. However, I still have the gripe about, healing. The class can't heal itself. You need injury kits or health potions, to keep yourself healthy or have enough health points to survive the next battle. So I find that, a bit of a disadvantage on my book. Yeah.
And ultimately, it's kind of interesting to see how the rogue has changed. Originally, they're a thief class. Every RPG needs a thief class. If we check the font of all knowledge, that we know that the thief class actually came in every RPG, including board games. This is kind of one of the problems with the rogue. It started out as the original RPG type of thief. Lockpicking, distraction, stealing. Well, that isn't really what it's turned into now. We don't really consider that a vital part of being a rogue. I think we should look at how this changed. Let's look at how the rogue legacy has developed.
Mind you, I only knew about the rogue from the World of Warcraft Classic. I don't know about the different iterations of it during the Burning Crusade or the Wrath of the Lich King or the Cataclysm, and beyond. I don't know how the rogue has evolved from then. Yeah. Are these all rogues? Oof.
It's no wonder so many people rolled a rogue originally. The game was like, what the fuck is diminishing returns, and even an average rogue could stunlock some tanks to death. But it's cool, there were so many flavour of the game rerollers that a huge proportion of rogues never realised their potential. Otherwise the game would obviously have been imbalanced. Thank you, bad guys. Thank you. Rogues did have some problems in the early life of the game though. Blizz was pretty rigid about sticking to the Code of Thieves. They had more profession systems than any other class in the game. Poisons and lockpicking had their own profession screens. You actually had to level them. We had poison vendors selling various materials to create different ranks of poisons. And if you didn't bother to level them, you could end up at high level with original poisons that didn't actually matter too much, as most guilds didn't let you use poisons in raiding. So it wouldn't screw up the...
Wait, how come? How come they won't allow you to use poisons in raiding? Why?
damage debuffs. I think the worst of the poison tree was blind. You know, that ability that you get to use whenever you want now? Well, back in the day, using blind actually cost a reagent called blinding powder. I mean, how did it even make sense? You're essentially throwing dirt in somebody's eyes. Why would I need to have a special powder to do that?
No, look. I'm sure that dust or that sand or that powder has some sort of, I don't know, like some sort of poison in it that sustains the blindness in your opponent. Just give it a bit more importance, Preach Gaming. Come on. It's not that simple. It's not like you're just taking sand from the ground and throwing it at someone. No.
Blinding powder had to be created from a mid-level herb called Fade Leaf, which meant you had to buy it from the auction house or go and farm it yourself.
Exactly. It's not as simple as it seems.
At least Blizz acknowledged how stupid this was when they eventually removed the need for blinding powder. Herbing...
That's not stupid though. I kind of like that. It puts a bit more emphasis on you being someone who uses misdirection and who uses shadows and subterfuge to defeat your enemies. You're not someone who goes up front with a sword and a shield. You use dirty tactics to win the battle and to produce the tools for a dirty tactic. You're going to be doing stuff like this. So yeah, I don't agree with what they did here.
Vendors wasn't the only method to get your reagents though. In 1.2, lockboxes also had a chance to drop rogue materials, which was a nice addition. The only problem was lockpicking needed leveling as well, and it was a total pain in the ass. Similar to herbs, there were zones where certain mobs had a chance to drop a lockbox if you pickpocketed them, and gain a level by opening it. As you can imagine, most Flavor of the Month rerollers would never do this, and as such, most capped rogues couldn't even open basic lockboxes. It was a crazy time for rogues. Talented sap had a 10% chance of breaking you out of stealth, so CCing in a dungeon always carried the risk that you'd be instantly killed. But the classic roguelike skills would eventually pay off, and the only encounter of vanilla who actually needed rogues? The suppression room. Blackwing Lair. The irony that the most hated room in the game was the one that rogues shined in. I'm not lying that people hated rogues. A classic factor in rogue power was Eviscerate having enormous base damage, with little effect from gear itself.
But, I've been told by Platinum WoW that the rogue class was one of the most famous classes to use in the vanilla World of Warcraft, I would say it's the warrior and the rogue class that are the most famous by players to use. Or maybe I forgot what he said properly. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. But I thought that, this class was one of the most selected because of its abilities, maybe, or its advantages compared to other classes. I'm not sure. But, yeah.
This gave rise to the popular naked rogue killing cat/geared characters videos spamming the internet, although some of these videos were actually hilarious, so that's kind of cool. In PvP, the primary enemy of the rogue was casters until later in the game. Engineering became almost a must-have for dedicated PvPers. Gnomish death rays, spell reflection trinkets, evening up the odds of being exploded if caught out of stealth, but it wasn't a bad time. The mechanics of the game allowed for some hilarious moments. Our own Grand Marshal team member...
I mean, look how fast the rogue is running. Compared to the other opponent, the other class. Really, the rogue is moving super fast. That's also a very powerful advantage. The fact that you can run that fast and probably avoid the attacks of your enemy and, cloak again and then go behind your enemy and stab them in the back. Yeah, it's good.
The methodical reminisces about the Hand of Justice, a level 53 trinket which allowed a chance for extra swings of your weapon, and then sword specialization in the combat tree which did exactly the same thing, only they could actually proc off the proc. He killed a gold farmer trying to take a thorium node off him just from the cheap shot and the procs going off. As gear got better, rogues became one of the most staple members of 40-man raids. 6 to 8 rogues per raid was considered ideal, not only bringing dominant DPS, but also being in control of their threat in a time when threat really mattered. The Burning Crusade. TBC didn't bring much in the way of changes for rogues. Mutilate was added and now rogues were allowed to use poisons in raids, with the debuff adjustment but then countered by adding poison immune bosses. Thanks so much for that. So combat it is. A new stat called Haste came in, and though it seems this one hadn't really been thought out properly. It's kind of pre-Mathemagicians, and haste items were rare until the Black Temple, unless of course you were a blacksmith. Almost immediately, every rogue worth his salt re-rolled to smithing and began working on Dragon Strike, a mace with a haste proc, combined with a rare shitty odd item that had haste on it, and of course the grail of the Burning Crusade.
Wait, could you have Dragon Strike in both hands? Like if you made one Dragon Strike for this hand, can you make another one for the second hand, and then, you know... I'm just wondering about that.
The item still farmed weekly until the end of the expansion. The Dragon Spine Trophy enabled smarter rogues to top entire raids' early DPS by 20 to 30%. Not only that, but we cannot have the Kings of Murder held back by casters anymore. Now it's the time for Cloak of Shadows. Cloak was an outrage to most at release. How can the already OP ganker rogues now be immune to our spells? Of course it was created with balance in mind, but the wine did not go unheard and Cloak was quickly removed from preparation. TBC wasn't the best time for PvP for rogues. Resilience was here and it was here to stay. It destroyed the rogue PvP playstyle early in the expansion. Rogues simply could not put out enough damage to compete against the new giant health pools and score a kill. And suddenly, World of Roguecraft was dead and buried. People re-rolled away with no hope in sight, and for the first time since WoW had launched, the Rogue was no longer the most played class in the game. It wasn't...
Okay, so that title it had only lasted in the vanilla World of Warcraft, and it didn't continue in Burning Crusade. Okay, alright.
Until the mid-Burning Crusade that these issues were addressed. The class received heavy changes. A new spell called Shadow Step was added to allow mobility. Hemorrhage was buffed through the teeth, and Cheat Death was completely reworked and became, well, let's be honest, massively overpowered. Originally, it was bugged, returning the rogue to 10% health and reducing damage to 99% instead of the intended 90%. The new Cheat Death allowed rogues to not only stand on their own feet, but in the arena include a lot of PvE gear into their setups, and with huge protection from Cheat Death, like a flash, rogues were back and dominating. With the addition of Warglaves, the rogue had a very happy ending to the expansion in PvP, and with the first class to break the 4k DPS barrier in PvE. The Wrath of the Lich King. The snows of Northrend brought good tidings. Fan of Knives. Finally a spell to do some form of AoE damage. 2 expansions we had waited and here it was. But not only that, Tricks of the Trade came as well. So now our ninja pulling for slow tanks wouldn't be as dangerous as it had been in the past. A minor problem with this was how powerful Fan was. Originally, Fan of Knives also interrupted any caster who got hit. Who the fuck thought this was a good idea? Of course, this allowed the rise of arena teams who only casted Fan of Knives and destroyed. It also did too much damage. By Ulduar, if you had more than one mob to DPS, Fan was a huge DPS increase. Rogues even got dismantle. Something that rogues have been crying out for, but only now. It wasn't just a disarm, it also removed shields. Such a good time. Fan was the order of the day. Unfair advantage was genius until it was quickly hammered into the ground by Blizz, allowing a rogue to instantly attack back whenever the rogue dodged or parried, meaning that, well, just watch this.
Overkill.
For the third time, combat was the spec to go, all the way until Ice Crown. Not that it didn't have some problems. Killing Spree was the new big hitter. Also the spell that cost the lives of many a rogue when used at the wrong time. It still happens today. As time went on, the sneaky rogue started to take note of the new stat added to the game, armor penetration. Originally classed as a waste of time, as people were able to reach 100%, it became more and more attractive. But then it was discovered that you could go over cap armor penetration and do bonus damage on top. Overnight, every rogue regemmed, restatted to full armor penetration. As armor was a flat number, clothies with low armor were eaten alive by ARP rogues. I guess befitting both PvE and PvP, the energy change was the biggest factor. Previously, energy restored in chunks at a time, brought in smooth energy regen we know of today, allowing the use of abilities much quicker and with
Energy as in stamina?
more planning. It wasn't until Arthas opened his doors that history was made. Out of the blue assassination was given an enormous buff, and for the first time in World of Warcraft, combat was no longer the superior PvE spec. Surprisingly, the very old school rogues actually complained. I likes me my rogue with swords, they declared. PvP was similar to that of TBC. Rogues started weak in comparison, especially next to the new hero class DK Overlords. But once they were dripping in cool items, they got some nice representation in those top teams. Cataclysm. Cata brought with it the fancy new Force 31-point talent systems, which hurt rogues more than any other class. The ability to mix around certain talents was an integral part of rogue life, especially with risky talents like Killing Spree not really being very favourable. The Fires of Deathwing also allowed 3 talent specs to be viable in PvE for the first time. Sub got a solid representation on a few fights, and by the Dragon Soul the rogue proved vital to certain encounters, and guilds were recruiting them en masse. The Smoke Bomb. This was the big addition, and hugely overpowered. It is rare to see a spell change so much so quickly, but Smoke Bomb was nerfed nearly almost every week after launch.
Like I'm seeing this player here. I'm not sure if it's a rogue, you know, the player, but the people that this player is fighting against, the way they're teleporting, or they're cloaking, or they're using smoke screen, or you know, they're just running circles around this player. It's just it's frightening to see this. How are you supposed to win a PvP when your opponent, who is a rogue, can do all of this? I mean, it looks fun, but wow.
Which was disappointing to some rogues. For PvP, it was a nice change of pace. Compared to the previous expansions, a solid pace from start to finish in 3v3 and considered not too weak and not too powerful throughout. They had representation going all the way from the bottom to the top. I guess the ultimate tribute to the rogue was the specific legendary daggers for the rogue. A class quest which was tailored to all the rogue.
Is that a grappling hook? Oh.
Abilities was met with universal appraise, and although the Fangs of the Father were not the coolest looking items in the game, they looked superb and a nice tribute to the classic rogue style from the vanilla days. Well, there you go. That's the legacy of the rogue. They've changed a lot since vanilla. There's a few things in there that we should talk about, like the idea that we did have to collect resources for poisons. So weird that the idea that that was going to be okay was introduced into the game.
But it is okay. Like, come on. I mean, other classes also collect resources to make, you know, potions like mana or health potions. They do that too, so why not for poisons as well? Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, guys. I just feel like it's authentic when you do something like that. You know? Yeah.
I should have mentioned, I guess, that Poisons themselves used to disappear when you zoned. Little life inconveniences like that. So you would enter a BG, put your poisons on and win, and if you went into the next BG, you would have to put your poisons on again. Remember, of course, these were poisons that you had to make yourself. They weren't in your spellbook. But now in Mist of Pandaria, it's not quite finished yet, so we can't comment entirely, but they have been one of the strongest melee classes, surviving this caster dominance that we've seen throughout the expansion, kind of alongside the DK. Whereas other melee has fallen behind, the rogue has been there, standing its own ground. It's a wonderful class. It's one of the best classes I've ever played. I'm not a fan of thieves. I never have been. When it comes to sneaking around, it's not really for me. It's too slow. I prefer to get in there and get nitty gritty, which is why the warrior's generally been my favourite class. But I can see the appeal of the rogue, and I always had fun on my rogue whenever I played it. I'm looking forward to looking at some other classes, so why don't you give the video a like if you want to see more legacies of other classes. Let me know what you think. Alright guys, bye.
Okay guys, that was Legacy of the Rogue by Preach Gaming. Yeah, the class is also a class I would not choose personally. It's not one of the, my favorite classes to that I've seen so far that I want to use. I think it would be like maybe number 5 on my list. All the way back there with Warrior. Like Warrior, Rogue, and which other one? The Paladin class, right? I don't think I would use them first. Definitely. The Shadow Priest, the one that uses mind control, that's number 1. That's number 1. That's number 1 on my list. So yeah, I also see the appeal of using a rogue. Their abilities are very powerful, I would say. And just like with all the other classes, it had its ups and downs, throughout all the iterations of World of Warcraft. With Burning Crusade, they kind of nerfed it a bit, made it a bit more at par with all the other classes and just made it a bit difficult. But when it came to Wrath of the Lich King, that's where it just shined, it shined, and people would enjoy this class, and its abilities were, even more effective and powerful. Just like with all the other classes. What I've also realized is that with Wrath of the Lich King installment of World of Warcraft, I don't know, but it just seems as if things just went right for so many classes. Even with the login screens, I've been discussing about the login screen music in my what is it called again? World of Warcraft all login screens with music, vanilla to Shadowlands. Yeah, you'll see the link here. Yeah, I'll put it up top here. Where I was discussing about the Wrath of the Lich King installment of World of Warcraft has been so successful, I would say, compared to all the other installments. And definitely even with the classes, it seems that things were just going right for them in that installment. But then as you continue on to other installments, that's when it just goes up and down like a roller coaster. So yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting. The class is a unique one, and I also don't really like cloaking and pickpocketing chests and stuff like that. Yeah, I think Skyrim kind of kicked that feeling out of me, because I've been playing Skyrim for many years and I've always tried to become a rogue, and I never really enjoyed it at the end after I completed all the skills trees for the rogue development, and I couldn't really feel it. So now that's also infected my thought process on other rogue classes on other games. I just don't really value them as much as I should, probably. Yeah, but it's okay. It's good. It's good. Okay guys, that's it for today. If you liked the video, remember to give me a like, comment and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as Preach Gaming's YouTube channel, the links are in the description below. Okay, bye bye.